Montessori, and here's the Merriam-Webster definition. Individual instruction. I really didn't know anything about Montessori. I had a bachelor's degree and a postgraduate elementary teaching credential, and I really didn't know anything about Montessori education. Then I had my first son. When he was preschool age, someone I knew said, "Oh, you should get him into a Montessori preschool." And I said, "Oh, no, I don't want a religious school." And this person laughed and said, "No, it's not a religion. Check it out." So I did. This was before Google. Montessori method stresses the development of a child's own initiative. Sounds good, right? Why did I not hear about this in my teacher credential program? So I got my son into a Montessori preschool. It was expensive. Worth it, but expensive. I was a second grade teacher at the time, and I would go visit my son's Montessori preschool, and I would stand there jaw dropped, watching all of these 3, 4, and 5-year-olds totally concentrated and engaged in whatever they were doing. It was quiet, hushed. The first time I went to visit, I ran over to my son and said, "Oh my gosh, that's so good!" Adults came running from the corners, shushing me, pushing me back to the doorway where I could stand and watch. That's it, just watch. I had committed the gravest of errors. I had interrupted children as they were learning to experience concentration. They were learning how to concentrate, and the environment was set up so they could practice it. I couldn't believe the way this method was affecting my son. Through flexible seating, choice of activity, self-pacing, my son was given the opportunity as a 3-year-old to develop his executive functioning skills. Can you imagine how giving all children this kind of executive functioning practice would affect mental health statistics? What if a child's natural state is to love learning? And if a child's not loving learning, there's not something wrong with the child, there's something wrong with the learning environment. This is what I should be doing in my second grade classroom, I thought. Why didn't I learn how to do this in my teacher credential program? How do I get this? And then I went back to my school. Someone told me that we had public elementary Montessori classrooms in my school district. What? I've been teaching here for years. Why have I never heard of this? I asked an administrator about our public elementary Montessori classrooms. "Oh, you don't want to do that. Once you get in, you'll never get out." That sounds scary. Is it a cult? Who was Montessori? Maria Montessori, first female doctor in Italy. That's cool, not a cult. She based her education methodology on human development, like, let's teach kids things when they're most sensitive to learning them. Second language acquisition, easiest to learn implicitly before the age of 10. She was nominated 3 times for a Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, that is cool. I'll start a Maria cult. President Woodrow Wilson thought about making Montessori education our national public education pedagogy back in the early 1900s, but a guy named Kilpatrick at the Teachers College dissed it, so she went back to Europe. A lot of private Montessori schools opened here, though. Maybe it seems like a cult because it's named after a person? Nobody accuses me of being in the Fahrenheit cult when I tell the temperature outside, or being in the Tupperware cult, or in the Ferris Wheelian cult. Here are some other things that are named after a person and we don't think it's a cult. I wouldn't mind having a national public education methodology, pedagogy, based on human development, even if it was named after a person. So I said, if there's ever an opening in our district's public elementary Montessori classrooms, keep me in mind. And then I went back to trying to steal things from my son's Montessori preschool to implement in my second grade classroom. Things like decluttering the environment and making everything accessible to the students so they could be independent and practice their executive functioning skills. Things like checklists to allow students to self-monitor and self-pace and self-reflect. Things like record-keeping charts so I could try to individualize instruction for my students. Not just differentiate, but individualize. Differentiation is better than just making everyone do the same thing at the same time, whether it's too hard or too easy, but individualization is the best. You feel like doing math first thing in the morning? Go for it. You want to practice math facts with your big buddy? Sure. You're a first grader and ready and want to learn long division? Okay. And you get to stand up and stretch and get a drink whenever you want. You get to practice your self-regulation skills. So I was teaching second grade, trying to differentiate instruction for my students, feeling like I was reinventing the wheel. See, every year, my students came to me in second grade with reading and math levels that ranged from pre-K to 8th grade. And I was given second grade materials. So I was constantly begging and borrowing and stealing other grade level materials to try to meet my students' needs. Every teacher I knew was doing this. That's why we get into this job. We want to meet our students' individual needs. Meet individual needs. That's what our state and national education standards ask us to do. So teachers do everything they can to try to do that, including making their own materials on their own time and dime, buying materials from each other, stealing things from their son's Montessori preschool. Good public school teachers are doing everything they can to try to meet their students' individual needs. What would it be like if our teacher credential programs actually gave us those tools? See, teachers I had to have behavior programs and class management strategies to try to control kids who are doing work that's either too easy or too hard. That's what I learned in my traditional teacher education program, how to make a classroom of kids do the same thing at the same time. Oh, and how to write lesson plans. We did a lot of that too, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So years later, when my boys were 10 and 12, I got a call. You still interested in teaching in one of our public elementary Montessori classrooms? Yeah. I started training that summer. My friend was driving me, and on the way he said, so what's up with this follow the child thing in Montessori? And I said, I don't know. I came out of that 2-year Montessori teacher credential program like, I was like, this solves all of our problems in public education. We all know that children master skills within an age range, not at an age. When you take your child to the pediatrician, they give you age ranges to give you an idea of when your kids should master stuff. So why do we do it differently at school? We all know that children learn certain things more easily at certain times. We could all have bilingual kids if we taught second languages in the early years, but no, we wait until high school. Wouldn't it be nice if our public education system was set up based on human development? That, I learned, is what Montessori education is. It's a methodology, a pedagogy of education that is based on how humans learn. It is not a system for training young children emphasizing free physical activity. And it is not practical play. I was beginning to understand why I really didn't know anything about Montessori education before. How about this definition? So I came out of my Montessori teacher credential program and began shaking the shoulders of everyone that I knew. Why aren't we doing this in public education? And then I calmed down, kind of, and I began an inquiry into why we aren't doing this for every student and every teacher in public education. That's right, this is about the students, but it is also about the teachers. In my Montessori teacher credential program, I was given the tools and training I need to be able to individualize education for my students, and training in how to allow the students to self-monitor and self-pace and self-reflect so they own their own education. As a public Montessori teacher, I have a multi-age classroom, and I have my students for 3 years. And I have a range of hands-on materials in every academic area that meets skill levels from pre-K to 8th grade. So my students don't have to wait until the next grade level if they're ready to learn something. I have all of these tools, and the teacher next door to me doesn't. That is not fair for the students and for the teachers. This is an equity issue. Union people, can we get on this, please? And how would being in a multi-age classroom affect students' understandings and compassion for diversity? Age is a type of diversity too, right? I had been a public school teacher for a decade. And then I went to a Montessori teacher credential program, and it changed my life. My life's mission is now to increase free public access to this methodology because it works for students and for teachers. And I have gotten every kind of response. Oh, Montessori, that's where you just let the kids do whatever they want. No. Montessori, that's an alternative form of education. It's not right for all kids. Alternative? How is individualization not right for anyone? Oh, we can't promote a program. A program? It's not a program, it's a methodology, a pedagogy of education based on human development. Do you know how much money school districts could save just in curriculum adoptions alone if we went all Montessori? The curriculum is the standards. Montessori is the methodology that allows students to meet those standards. And that's when I realized people just don't know. Like me before, people just don't have accurate information about this. So back to those lesson plans. That was all we did in my traditional teacher education program, right? Lesson plans. But what if we already knew how children learn concepts? That children learn best through hands-on materials moving from concrete to abstract understanding. But not just any hands-on materials. You have to do it right. In math, you have to use a manipulative or a hands-on material consistently over a long period of time. And you have to use the material to move the student from concrete to abstract understanding. And don't use teddy bear counters and randomly colored things. It messes them up. And you have to explicitly explain the relationship between the material and the concept to the student. The lesson plans for introducing students to concepts are already written. I got them in my Montessori teacher credential program. I didn't have to rewrite and reinvent everything. I give the lesson to the student, and the student is the one who uses the material and repeats and explores alone and with peers until the concept is mastered. These students are making the transition from distributive division to group division. I can't lesson plan when that's going to happen. It's different for each student. That, I learned, is what follow the child means in Montessori. I knew that. The public education world is starting to take note of Montessori education. There's a school district in South Carolina that has gone all Montessori. A 5-year study of their program has shown that this methodology bridges the achievement gap for low-income and minority students. Another study of Montessori middle school students reported that they had significantly higher intrinsic motivation while doing schoolwork than their traditional school peers. And I could go on. This should be public education. We should be training our teachers this way. We already have an infrastructure for public education set up in this country. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's just train our teachers this way. Why should only people with money or who win a lottery be able to get this? I became a teacher because I want to facilitate children's learning. I went through 2 teacher education programs. One of them gave me the tools and the training that I need to do that. If you know which one, you might be a Montessorian.